betting weekly. Because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the burn, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show, Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Welcome in everyone to Betting Weekly Live. It is Thursday, the 8th of May with Steve Wyss and James Eastham, which means one thing this season, Europa League, Conference League. We are now at the semi-final stage, second leg. We are going to know the finalists after these results, James. It feels like it's just all come down to this. It's the crunch stage. You must be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, well, it was great, wasn't it, to do the semi-finals last week, having done the competitions all the way through. Not everything went the way we thought. Some of it did, some of it didn't. I think people will know the game we're talking about. It's the Athletic Club Bilbao Manchester United game was the big shock in the semi-final first leg. We'll obviously look at the second leg today, but some of it did go as we expected. So plenty still to look at from the betting markets, which have obviously moved massively on the back of those first legs. So we'll go through the games and all the best prices.
Yeah, we certainly will be going through all those games. We've also got an English Championship. The playoffs start today. Sheffield United in action at Bristol City. Might have time for a quick look at the Norwegian Cup game today as well. Yesterday, let's just talk about that first because there was some significant winners and losers. I'm actually going to start with the NBA playoffs because the Celtics blew another 20-point lead. There was $25,000 sadly on them at minus 500. That lost. But I was just speaking to producer Troy before we came live on air, and someone placed $225 on the Knicks live on the money line at 60-1, and they have won nearly $14,000 from that bet, James. That's one of the best 60-1 winners I've ever come across in my life. So well done to that particular bettor. The biggest soccer bet yesterday on the sportsbook, unfortunately, was a loser, 10,000 on Arsenal, plus a quarter of a goal on the Asian handicap at minus 104 against PSG. I hope that wasn't your money, James, because I know you've been up and down with PSG in the Champions League this season, whether you've been for or against them. They're into that final, of course. Arsenal are quite a popular bet yesterday on the sportsbook, another nearly $6,000. An Arsenal draw no bet was a loser. Brief thoughts on the events in Paris last night.
Well, I understand the people that oppose PSG on the second leg in the sense that for all the praise that they've understandably had on their run, which is now to the final, they've done really well. They've won a lot of people over with the way they played. My view going into the second leg of the semi-final was that they hadn't actually, for me, played amazingly over both legs in either the last 16 or the quarter final. I know they got a lot of praise for the way they played against Liverpool in the last 16. I understand that, but they did lose the first game. People should remember. And then obviously in the quarter final against Aston Villa, they started really well in that second leg, but then they lost it. So my view was that they might struggle to win both legs against Arsenal. Obviously that's happened now. They've won both legs, which is fantastic. But I do understand the people that thought about opposing PSG in the second leg. I thought they'd go through, I should say, but I do understand people opposing them on the night.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that final goes. Welcome in everyone. Rick Haley, Ming Chung, Byron, Villa fan, good to see you. Kevin Broadser, James and Steve handing out Europa and Conference winners like Halloween candy. It has been that sort of year. Thank you very much, Kevin. Daniel Lucani and Borello Charles, Giannetti, good to see you. Brian Lawler, Will White in the chat. He had a brilliant Tuesday live show. Winners galore on the Tuesday Champions League into Barca. That was a sensational game. Real Brandon King, do we think the better team lost yesterday? I mean, look at the score over two legs. Real Brandon King. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
On that one. Not for me.
Oh, yeah. No, not for me either. I mean, I've seen these comments. We're talking about the Arsenal game, right? I've seen these comments from Arteta saying that he felt they were the better team. Listen, if you're the manager of a team that's lost, you can say whatever you want to defend your team, and I understand it. But I personally think PSG were the better side over the two legs and fully deserved their place in the final. So yes, I'm not on board with that view on Arsenal, I have to say.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the metrics in the stats. Arsenal out XG and PSG over the two legs by 2.5. Well, that for me is just code for buy a good striker. Really, get a good striker, and you might actually convert that XG into goals. Donnarumma did have 2 good ties, but goalkeepers are there to make saves at this stage.
Correct,
of the tournament. They just are. It can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, right. We're into Europa League territory, and there is the current situation. Spurs or Bodo Glimt will face Athletic Bilbao or Manchester United in the final. And as a result of the matches last week, Man United are now the clear favourite to win the Europa League at -121. Spurs at +120. Bodo Glimt 20-1. Athletic Club Bilbao at 50-1. Obviously the -121 there on Manchester United is because they've got more than 1 foot in the final. We're going to start with this game here because I've actually seen some fans saying, "Oh, we're a bit worried. We know what Manchester United are like. They could blow this one and all that." But I honestly, James, I don't see it. I really don't. 3-0 up, and no matter. We could talk all day about the refereeing decisions in that first leg, but the truth is Manchester United had a very good game plan. Even before the penalty was awarded, they're 3-0 up now. Athletic Bilbao have terrible team news ahead of this game, and they have to win it to have any chance. +285 on the visitors. Man United -107. Over under goals is around the 2.5 mark. Bilbao 25-1 to qualify here. Do you give them any chance whatsoever of making a game of this? Can they at least win the second leg, James, or not?
Yeah, maybe their team news doesn't help. Maybe they can. I don't think they're going through. I understand why you can't place a bet on Bet Rivers on Manchester United qualifying. That's how short they are. They're so short they're not on the map with that 3-0 lead from the first leg. But I think if you're Bilbao, you don't give up on the tie because you're a top professional team, and that's what they'll do. They'll go into the game still trying to get back into it, possibly even more so because of how poorly they played by their own standards last week, and because the final is at their home ground. So, they'll go at it from the start, a bit like we saw Arsenal do last night. This is obviously a bigger deficit that Athletic Club have got to overcome, but I think they'll have a real go. Hope they can get an early goal, which might change the complexion of the tie. So can they win on the night? Well, I think they can. I wouldn't be supporting Manchester United on the night at the price they're available at, which is -107. Why would you back Man United when they're already 3-0 up to win on the night when they don't need to win? I suppose the argument would be that Athletic Club might leave such huge gaps at the back as they chase the 3-0 deficit that United will win on the break. Yeah, maybe that's an argument. But I think looking at the prices and the state of the game, I wouldn't back United to win. I suppose arguably the difference in motivation to win tonight makes Athletic Club the value on the night. But I think all of those markets for me would be ones I'd leave alone. If anything, and this is my lean on the game, I move towards the goal market. I think over 2.25 goals is a decent lean at -139. The logic being that if you leave out of the equation who would actually end up winning the game, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it play out the way that I've just described, with Athletic Club going at it and United getting chances. So I think it should be fairly open. And I think over 2.25 goals at -139 is worth a look. But yeah, I can't see any way back into this tie for Athletic Club. I think, even if they win on the night, I don't see them winning by enough to take this game to extra time or anything like that.
Three massive, four big players ruled out. Owen Sanset, I think you pronounce him Sanset, don't you, James? And both Williams brothers are ruled out as well. You've got Sanset, 19 goals, 4 assists in all competitions. Inaki Williams, 11 goals, 9 assists in all comps. Nico Williams, 10 goals, 10 assists. Actually thought he would have had more goals and assists. Maybe he needs to add that to his game, but still massive loss. And then Danny Vivian suspended after the red card last week. So, that's taking up a massive amount of the goals from their team.
Yeah.
But I do think they'll give it a go. They're not just going to come here and roll over and have a 0-0, pretend, it's all over. This is the semi-finals of the Europa League.
Well, this is it, Steve. I cannot see any way they would play other than what you've said, have a real go. Why would they not? And you're right about the team news. That's a huge blow for them. Loss of quality goals, assists is significant. But in terms of how you approach the game, that wouldn't make you approach the game any differently, would it? It would just mean the players who are going to play for you are probably not of the same quality. So I think it will be a really open match. And that's why I lean towards the goals. Fully understand people who might not want to get involved in the goals because of what you've mentioned there with the team news. If you think it's largely down to the quality of the players on the pitch, you might want to leave it alone. But I just feel that over 2.25 in a semi-final second leg, which is going to play out, we think, as we've just described, I think is maybe worth a look.
It's contrasting though, isn't it? With Vivian ruled out that week into defence. Man United may well get themselves a couple of goals here. They'll want to put on a show. They'll be really focused. That said, 72% of the money is on the under in the over-under goal market. 66% of the money on the money line is on Man United. I've got a lean on the cards here for those who can access this market. Daniel Siebert is the referee, a German referee. And, he does dish a few. I watched him. He did the Lazio Bodø second leg in Rome. 4 yellows. I think a couple of reds as well in that game. 1 red, sorry. He's a ref that can dish them. But I'm more interested in Athletic Bilbao over 2.5 cards for the game. I really do think that it could be an option in this particular market.
Just on the atmosphere as well, Steve, because you mentioned about United there, and you think about what a tough season they've had. So much criticism coming their way, understandably. Is this going to be the nicest night, if you can put it that way, in terms of the atmosphere at Old Trafford? In the sense that, like you've said, they've got more than 1 foot already in the semi-finals. The atmosphere has been quite tense a lot of the time because of results not going their way, performances not going their way. I just think that it's a great chance for the players, the staff, to actually maybe enjoy being at Old Trafford for once. Now what impact that will have on how they play, we'll have to wait and see. But it's just worth flagging up that it's a rare occasion this season where you imagine that the fans, the players, everybody's going into this game, really looking forward to it and almost expecting a positive outcome, because even if they lose on the night, there's a very good chance it won't make any difference. So I think they'll be enjoying it, and maybe that will help them relax and play some good football as well.
So that lean for me over 2.5 Athletic Bilbao cards. Just think they might lose their heads potentially, and hopefully the match sort of is close. It'd be nice to see Athletic Club get the first goal here. Actually, I think it would make it a bit interesting. It's not out of the question. They're not just going to roll over and give up the fight. Minus 121 to win the Europa League now. I've got to be honest, they would now be my pick to win the tournament. I'm not going to bet on them at minus 121. But at this stage, I think they will be the winner, James. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, listen, it's at the moment they're obviously almost in the final, but regardless of who they were to play in the final, we're obviously going to come on to the second semi. I would agree with that. I think they are the favourites now, and I would be surprised if they didn't win it now.
Just welcoming in some new people into chat. Dave Clark, ZT, DM Punk. There was a good article on The Athletic about Bodø Glimt, apparently. Thanks very much for that. I'll take a look later. Steve from Lynn, good to see you. I think I had to get that Mulder pick right yesterday, didn't I? After Nigel took off his jacket in protest, talking about the Norwegian Cup against fourth-tier opponents. But they may well beat. I will talk about the Norwegian Cup game at the end of the show. There is one match, Tromso against KFUM. I was like, going to have a look at the lineups.
Squeeze it in at the end. We'll get it in
at the end. Yeah. Grazza says, is it 7 out of 8 semi-finals this season have gone over in Europe? It may well be, actually. The only under was the PSG first. No, the Arsenal first leg against Real Madrid. Good to see Rick the Brick as well from Canada. So that's the Man United game. I mean, I'm gonna predict a bit of a wild one. I'm gonna say Man United actually win the game 2-1. What are you gonna say for the second leg score? I'm
gonna go 2-1 the other way. 2-1 to Athletic Club Bilbao is my pick. I just saw the comment from Byron there saying over 2.5 is minus 105, I think it was. But I'm going to go 2-1. I think, let's see what happens. But I think Bilbao can make a game of it, at least tonight, and finish with a bit of pride.
We are going to talk about the Conference League, of course, later. Real Brandon King. There's a house special. I've got to mention this now. Man United and Tottenham each to score first in their respective matches today, plus 225 if you are into the first goal market and you like that sort of thing. Shakespeare's on. Good to see you, Shakespeare. Hello, James. A big bookshelf with none of Shakespeare's works on it. He's disappointed. Maybe we need to add a couple of Shakespearean.
Just you wait for the next show. There will be books on there, I promise you.
Get people getting their Zoom tool in to see what's on your bookshelf. Is the Dan Roebuck textbook going to be in there?
Lots of expertise on that shelf. Don't you worry about that. Next time.
Oh, let's see. Okay, let's move on. Probably, I think this is the most talked about game of the day. Bodo Glimt against Tottenham. There's been so much hype heading into this game, excitement on all quarters. The media attention's gone through the roof. Bodo Glimt are trailing Tottenham 3-1, and it should have been more. Let's be honest, Tottenham should have had more goals last week, but they didn't seal the tie, and that was a very, for want of a better word, Spursy thing to do, in my opinion. They didn't put Bodo Glimt to bed, and I've seen this before. Got a feeling they might regret it. Bodo Glimt are plus one. They're now the favourites to win this second leg, plus 150. Spurs plus 155. Tie plus 285. For most of the week, Bodo Glimt have been the underdog in the second leg, which I think was wrong. I was on them early in the week. I mean, I really like them. Draw no bet here. I'll talk about that soon. You've got a newsletter pick as well, which we're going to talk about here, James. The first leg, you escaped with a half loser. Quite a few people escaped there. A lot of people on both teams to score as well. It was, it wasn't really a deserved goal. I've got to be honest. It was the poorest I've seen Bodo Glimt, but it's given them more than just a chip in the chair, hasn't it? They're only 2 goals behind.
Exactly. And I think it's great for the tie, isn't it? They got that goal. I think it's kept it alive with everybody knowing they go into this second leg, knowing that they're likely to be far more dangerous at home because that's the way things are with Bodo Glimt. So I think it sets it up really nicely. I'm with you on the favouritism. I was surprised to see Tottenham were favourites to win on the night. 2 factors there for me. One is they don't need to win on the night with that 2-goal cushion. The second, obviously, being that Bodo Glimt have got a really good home record. So it did surprise me as well, and it's obviously flipped now. My newsletter pick, which went out at the start of the week, was over 2.75 goals on the game. That, of course, is in normal time, which when I put it up for the newsletter was minus 130. It's now minus 175. So very pleased to be on it at the bigger price. And it shows, I think, how the market feels about this game, which is that, I think those goals reflect a sense that Bodo Glimt can make a game of it. I don't think the goal line has changed like that necessarily because of Tottenham. I think it's people thinking Bodo Glimt can give them a real game here. Now, to do that, they would need to score a couple of goals, obviously, to level up the tie. Are they good enough to do that? I think they are. I mean, Tottenham might get 1 or 2 goals themselves, right? So it might not be enough to take Bodo Glimt through, but I just feel that Bodo Glimt, with nothing to lose and fairly confident in their own ability at home, will have a go here. And we're more likely to get an open game, with chances rather than the opposite. So that was my pick at the start of the week. I'm very happy to stand by that at over 2.75 goals at minus 130. If you didn't back it at that price at the start of the week, obviously the minus 175 now might be too short for you. Over 3 goals is now minus 136, which would be worth a look for me, because you'd get your stakes back with 3 goals, and I think there's a fair chance of it going 4 goals or more. So really entertaining game in prospect for me. I don't know what you think, Steve, about the to qualify odds. Bodo Glimt are massive outsiders there. When I last looked at the prices at plus 600, Tottenham minus 1,000. I get it. In one sense, I get it. Tottenham have got a 2-goal lead. You are looking at a Premier League side here, but Bodo Glimt, if they get a goal to go 1-0 up, I mean, those prices in running would obviously change, and it's slightly tempting. But as I say, for me, it's all about the goals. And even though some of the better prices may have gone now, I am expecting an open game, and I think that's where the best plays are here.
Yeah, you really like the goals here. I've got quite a lot of betting suggestions for the game. Best bet for it, draw no bet, Bodo Glimt, minus 112, although it might not be minus 112 now. I need to find the latest odds for the game, minus 121. I still think it's a bet. And you mentioned that to qualify. I've got a lean here, and I'm going to nibble it myself. Bodo Glimt on the minus 0.75 Asian handicap, plus 205. They've obviously got to win by 2 clear goals if they are going to qualify. So that would kind of cover you. If they win by 1 goal, you're going to get some profit anyway. And if they win by 2 clear goals, you get a plus 205 winner. They could lose in extra time penalties, and you'd still win. So that would be a good way to cover that one. I mean, my only concern about this game is it feels like every man and his dog loves Bodo Glimt. I think they've finally come round for good reason. Since they've gone back into European competition in 2020, 30 wins at home, 1 draw, 6 defeats. They have an incredibly high win rate at this venue because of the travelling, the weather, which is actually lesser a factor. It's going to be about 8 degrees, 9 degrees Celsius. Still not great. And it's still going to be misty and murky, I think. But the artificial pitch, that's the big factor here. It's so unique. Yeah. You know, I don't know what your opinions are about playing on grass as opposed to artificial. Spurs really struggled on artificial surface in the FA Cup this season against Tamworth. I do expect them. I think it takes a long time to get used to this pitch. It's the passing and the running on it is very, very different, James.
Yeah, it is. I suppose the surprise with all of these factors you mentioned is maybe the market moves during the week, because they are all things which are very well established, aren't they? They're factors we knew about, we've known about even before the tie. So it's more the change of price and the moves towards Bodo Glimt come in sort of last couple of days, which is a surprise. But I agree with you. I think these conditions are a huge factor. We don't see top teams in Europe playing on artificial pitches very much. I was going to say anymore. I mean, if you go back a long way, obviously they were a factor in the Premier League, weren't they, back in the 80s and the 90s? So, yeah, I think the conditions are difficult. They're now looking to me a little bit more built into the prices than they were 3 or 4 days ago. I still think there's chances if you look deep enough to find the odd edge here and there. I think the point you make about the Asian handicap pick is an interesting one, but it's going to be a difficult night, and it's a bit of an unknown, really, isn't it, how Tottenham are going to handle it, because they go in there and we're just going to have to wait and see. But I think Bodo Glimt now are looking like a more reasonable price, and I think the goals now are looking a more reasonable price than they were earlier in the week, that's for sure.
Yeah, does anyone in chat actually like Spurs here? As in the second leg to, draw no bet on them or them to actually win the game. I've not seen anyone who fancies them to do well. I think everyone's expecting a tough night for Spurs. I think quite a lot, most expect them to qualify still, but a lot are thinking they're going to lose this second leg. So, yeah, do put it in chat if you do like Spurs here. There's a Spurs player I don't mind a betting angle on, though, and that is Kulusevski for a shot on target, minus 114 if he starts. I think he could cut inside and that's quite a big price for a Spurs player. There's several Bodo Glimt players worth looking at in the shots on target market here. Jens Petter Hauge will be in his more familiar left wing spot here, cutting inside, minus 108 for a shot on target there. Håkon Evjen as well is worth looking at for a shot on target. I think he's plus 250. Big team news, Patrick Berg and Håkon Evjen are back after suspension. That's Patrick Berg. I mentioned him last week. Best player in Scandinavia for me right now. It's going to make a huge difference for Bodo Glimt in the midfield. And the money is on Bodo Glimt, 85% of it on the money line, but 61% of the tickets are on Spurs. So that suggests to me the professional money is on Glimt, and perhaps more of the public plays on the tickets are on Spurs. There's been a 5,000 play on Bodo Glimt draw no bet plus 105. And that doesn't really surprise me. That has been money for Glimt. It's just kind of almost too obvious, isn't it?
Well, that's the worry. And I saw the question there from Dan Roebuck. Is there a danger Bodo Glimt have been overset? You can be pleased that the market has moved in your direction if you're on early, but then you do have to keep asking yourself the question about, is the price still making sense? If you look at the goals price, it's such a big move on the line that I mentioned. You've mentioned Bodo Glimt getting shorter. You can kind of get swayed by the market moves too much sometimes, I think, and assume it's all correct, which I understand, but you still have to kind of hold your own opinion, really, and hold it quite central to your thoughts if you haven't had a bet and you're betting on the day. So, yeah, it's very interesting. My view is that Bodo Glimt look about right now, as I say, and my view is the goal line at the moment makes sense. Listen, it was quite open, I thought, last week, and we saw both teams score. And I think Bodo Glimt obviously are going to have a go tonight, and I don't think Tottenham are going to sit back and be particularly defensive. If they have a team coming at them, I think they're going to try and hit them on the break. So I think the goal line does make sense, but it's a good point Dan makes here. You do have to sort of hold your own opinion on these things and make sure you're staying true to what you think and not just being swayed by movements or current lines.
Yeah, another good player prop, which I forgot to mention there, Frederick Andre Bjerkan, just for a shot, plus 107 for Bodo Glimt. Left back who cuts inside, sometimes inverted. I think they could pin back Spurs a bit at times in this game. I've got underlined here and circled fireworks. And now I remember it's been doing the rounds today on X. The Spurs hotel, there were fireworks let off outside at 2 a.m. last night. It didn't look like the night. It was still light. It was still daylight in there in the Arctic Circle. 24 hours of daylight, I think, 2 months of the year up in Bodo. Byron's getting involved in the three-way handicap. He is effectively taking Bodo Glimt minus 1.5 there. That would be on the Asian line at plus 400. So good luck with that one, Byron. And I guess now we've got to make these correct score predictions and an outcome prediction. And I'm going to go the same score as last week, but the other way around. I'm going to go Bodo Glimt 3, Tottenham 1. And I am going to say that the match will be decided in extra time.
Wow. Big call. I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to go 2-2. Sorry to disappoint Bodo fans out there. I think they'll have a good go, but I'm going to go 2-2 and Tottenham to make it through to an all-English Europa League final.
Yeah, and there would be a lot of hype around that final, which is in Bilbao. Best of luck, whatever you are taking in this Bodo Glimt game. Let's move to the Conference League. And here's the draw bracket. We've got Real Betis 2-1 up against Fiorentina and Chelsea 4-1 up against Djurgardens. That tie pretty much looks all over. Chelsea minus 278 to win the Conference League. You've got Fiorentina at 9-1, which might tempt a few people now. They're only 2-1 down. They've got a home leg.
Yeah,
that would be maybe an angle to look at if you do like Fiorentina against Betis. We're going to come to that game after we talk about the Chelsea one. And you nailed it last week, James. Again, Chelsea have been a cash cow for you this tournament.
Yeah.
On the handicap, easily prevailed, minus 1.5. You also suggested both teams to score.
Yeah.
You absolutely nailed the game. So I'm just waiting for your Chelsea pick today to come through on it, but you're not actually going to get involved in
I'm
the Chelsea game.
I'm not. I'm leaving this one completely alone, Steve. I was really pleased with how Chelsea played and approached it last week. I thought it was very good performance, very solid. I didn't think they'd have too many problems, and so it proved. But on this second leg, I can't see anything on this game that is worth getting involved with. You have a team who have got more than 1 foot in the final. Why would they overstretch themselves to win big? I mean, they might want to win it. That bit I do understand, but they're only minus 560. They're minus 560 to win it, so there's no interest there. I think on the handicap, they're obviously, you need them to win by a couple of goals for it to be of any interest. I just don't see why they would really go all out to win by anything more than a goal here. So they might do because obviously the better team and potentially by far the better team, but there's not enough on it for me when a side are this far ahead in the tie. The other factor is team news. Yeah, we know Chelsea rotate in this competition, and we know they can play well and win big when they do rotate. They just might rotate even more than normal here, given the lead they've got from the first leg. So I've got slightly more concerns about the team news here than I ordinarily have on Chelsea in this competition. The prices look about right to me. It's how I would have priced it up, taking everything into account. There's no reason to get excited, I don't think, about Djurgardens taking advantage of any complacency from Chelsea or anything like that. I don't see it that way. I just see it as a game to leave alone, really, because the tie's pretty much done and dusted, as we thought it would be. Well, I thought it would be going into this second leg. Now I think Chelsea will be thinking about the final. And I think that's where my mind has gone really as well with Chelsea. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But from a betting point of view, having looked at all the prices, all the markets, match odds, money line, goals, handicap, you name it, I can't actually see anything here. I'd rather leave this game alone and just wait and see if Chelsea win by how many and how it plays out.
I finally found my notes for the Conference League. I thought I'd lost them or Kit Kat had nicked them when you came over to come and see me. But I'm going to go in this game with what I know is likely to be kind of more fact rather than opinion, in that I think the match means more to Djurgardens, simple as that. For them, it's a big occasion. They're 4-1 down, but to go to London, to Chelsea, this is a huge occasion still in the club's history for all the fans that are there. They're actually minus 124 just to score a goal with Bet Rivers, which I did look at. I did look at that one. I mean, Chelsea handicap's -2 on the Asian, by the way, for those who like that, Wouldn't shock me if it covered because, but I'm just looking at some players because it's a sort of night where I think players might just want to make something happen. And I mentioned him last week, Tottenham Gwen. He had 3 shots on target, 5 shots. And he's minus 112 for a shot on target again here. This guy's quick on the break, and they will get some opportunities, especially if this is a Chelsea weekend 11. It'll still be a decent side, Chelsea, but they'll get some chances on the break. So I thought minus 112 on Tottenham and Gwen for a shot on target. I mean, if you wanted to, over 1.5 shots on target at plus 380 could be even worth a little nibble there. And then Kaita Kosugi, just for a shot, minus 108. I've been quite impressed by this player for Djurgården this season, both domestically and in Europe. My cat nearly ruins my keyboard, and we nearly pressed a button that nearly turned my whole computer off. But yeah, Kosugi for a shot, minus 108. I'm not big on this game though because I think it could easily go into a damp squib. I saw there Paul Laguna under 3.5, under 3.25 goals. Paul, I think that's a great bet actually. Potentially for the game if the second half becomes a non-event. The referee as well, João Pinheiro, Portuguese ref. Forget what he does domestically in Europe. He doesn't like to give cards out. In his last 2 games in Europe, he gave no cards in Club Brugge against Aston Villa, 1 card Tottenham against AZ, and 3 cards Bayern against Slovan. There's the card line's at 2.5, and Chelsea are minus 175 just to obtain 1 card or more. That's about the lowest I've ever seen a team just to be carded.
Well, and there you go. Right. And I think it's indicative, isn't it, of what the market's expecting, a fairly tame affair here with, not much happening. Saw Byron's comment there, which was really interesting on some of the Chelsea players who are still quite good prices on the props markets. And it's something I've tried probably a bit less successfully than Chelsea on the handicap this year. It is Chelsea on the props market. But you can, I think, find some value on these games where players are going to rotate into their side, and sometimes the market is not quite wise to that. I mean, I think generally the market knows Chelsea will be playing an under-strength side, but I think back to the autumn and 1 or 2 of their group games in this competition, there were quite big prices on players where if you'd looked at how they were likely to line up, we kind of knew they might be starting and they were quite big odds. So interesting, Byron flagged up a couple of names there. That might be the way to go, if you're looking at the game, because I think individually, a bit like you're saying with Djurgården, Steve, it's almost an individual thing. They're going to want to impress on the big occasion. It's sort of the same thing with some of these Chelsea players who will rotate into the side. It's a great opportunity for them, even the ones who've been doing it regularly. So maybe have a look at the props market. They could possibly offer better opportunities than the main money line and handicap and goals markets here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite a difficult 11 to predict, but if you want to give that a go, you may as well with Bet Rivers bet on these player props because your bet will be voided if they don't start. So if you've got a bit of insight or you suspect how you think they're going to line up, you'll get an edge now. Before the lineups are revealed and the players' prices will naturally come down. We've got 69% of the money on the over-under market is on the under. So it might suggest that goal line is a little bit higher than it should be for the game, which is an interesting one. There's the most significant prop bet on the game, $1,200. Djurgården under 8.5 shots at plus 110, which I think is quite an interesting bet. But we move now to perhaps, well, some would say this is maybe the most interesting tie of the night. The closest, really close one here, Fiorentina against Real Betis. I think Betis, a little bit like Spurs, should have won by more than a goal in the opening leg, but they'll take that, a 2-1 win. They're flying at the minute, Real Betis. Really like what I'm seeing from them. Fiorentina, though, plus 120 to win the second leg. This has vibes for me, James, maybe going all the way extra time penalty sort of territory. Yeah. You've got, I think this might be your best bet of the night. It's certainly an official pick from you. Yeah. And I do agree with this one entirely. So talk us through what your best bet for the game is.
Yeah, my best bet for the game is over 2.5 goals, which has shortened since I picked it out. It was minus 120 when I decided I was going to go with it, minus 134 now, as you can see. It's similar to last week, really. I was confident that we'd see goals and both teams scoring last week in the first leg, which played out that way. And I think we'll see the same again here because first off, Fiorentina, they're a goal down, right? They're going to go for it at home. I think they've been fairly positive at home in this competition this season. I think they're quite well versed in taking the game to the opposition when they play at home. And I think we'll see that. So I think they'll be quietly confident. You know, that they maybe can't overhaul a 1-goal deficit, but I think they'll be fairly confident they can win on the night. And obviously, if they do that, they're at the very least taking it to extra time. So expect really positive stuff from Fiorentina. And Real Betis, I think, will be very confident that they can cause problems for Fiorentina as well, because they did so last week. As you've said, Steve, they maybe could and should have scored more goals. So I think this will be a great match. I think it's probably going to be the most interesting and absorbing game on the night of the 4 semi-finals. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the same scoreline as last week, which was 2-1 to Betis, and the game get taken to extra time. But I wouldn't also be surprised to see 4 goals in normal time, because there's a bit more on it with it being sudden death. This being the second leg, I think we might see a bit more late action. If the tie is still alive and nicely poised. And I think everything about it and everything about the two teams, how they played last week and where their strengths are and where I think they think their strengths are, to me, points towards it being quite an open game. So I really like the over 2.5 goals. Like I say, it was minus 120 when I backed it. I'm still happy with minus 134. You might want to look at over 2.75 goals, where you're obviously going to get nearer to evens. Both teams to score, yes, would be an alternative, but for me that is too short now. It's minus 167. So I'd just go straight on the overs here. I think it's by far the best way to play on this game. I think Fiorentina at plus 200 to qualify is possibly a bit too big, given that I think they do have the potential to win this tie, but I wouldn't get involved in that market. For me, it's all about overs, and I think over 2.5 goals is a way to play it.
I really like the goals. That's all I've got written down for this game as a strong pick, actually. Over 2.75 goals I'm going to go with at minus 103. I've also got written down Glenn Nyberg is the referee, Swedish referee, low card count, 2.8 cards per game in Europe generally, which is a shame, because I think if we had a referee who could lose control of matches, this could escalate into quite a high card count. But I know Nyberg, and he's quite a sensible referee. So that's a shame. Shame, really. But can't get involved with Nyberg overs and cards. But I am getting involved with the goals, definitely. I think, for me, I'm taking over 2.75 goals. I'm kind of hoping there's a fourth goal. But I do think 2-1 Fiorentina is possibly the most likely score in the game. A lot of people liking Anthony. Anthony's been on fire. To score or assist, that goal at the weekend was, his confidence is going to be sky high. So I wouldn't put off anyone looking at Anthony. You think, I agree with Fiorentina maybe to qualify plus 300s. Yeah. Big price. 9 to 1 for the title here.
That's the way I looked at it. They were obviously a shorter price to qualify before the first leg. It therefore makes sense they've gone bigger because they're 2-1 down. But I think, like I say, I think at home, if you look at how they've approached most games, they don't always win by huge margins, but they're fairly confident, I feel, the way they've played at home in this competition. They seem to have a lot of faith in their ability to score goals. And so I don't think the 2-1 deficit they've got will have deflated them particularly. I think they'll have confidence in their ability to claw it back here, and I think that will lead to an open game. So plus 200 just looks a little bit too big for me on Fiorentina to qualify. It's tempting because I think it's too big, but I don't think it's anywhere near as appealing as the over goals. I think that makes a lot more sense just to back that on the 90 minutes tonight.
And that's where the money is, on the over goals. 84% of the money on the over-under market is on the over. What is your correct score prediction for the second leg, James?
I'm going 2-1 in 90 minutes and the game to get taken to extra time.
Yeah, I think, look at extra time markets here. It could even go to penalties. I think it could be a bit of a classic reveal of the goals in that one. There is a big game going on in the English Championship today, which we have to cover. This is the playoff start. This is a bonkers period in English soccer now, where you can get all sorts of drama, and it leads to 3 ties, finals at Wembley Stadium. And the Championship playoffs, thank God my own team Leeds are not in it this year, James. It's the best way to go up, but it's the worst way not to go up. But Bristol City against Sheffield United, plus 195. Bristol City to win the first leg. Away goals don't count in this. The second leg coming up in Sheffield, who are plus 135 favourites. The tie at plus 185 was pretty short, actually. Over 2.5 goals at plus 160 for the game. I can't say I've been that impressed with either team in recent weeks. Sheffield United over the whole season definitely have been the better side. But I've been there before. When you miss out on automatic promotion, it can be a dampener. This could be a match where they're a little bit vulnerable. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that's the big question mark over this game is how much do you value the form that these two sides have shown over the season, which would point very strongly to Sheffield United, against their form in more recent times. So just to flesh that out a little bit, and for people who maybe don't follow the English Championship, the way the playoffs work is that we have two semi-finals involving the teams that finished third, fourth, fifth and sixth over the regular season. This is a game between the teams that finished third, Sheffield United, and sixth, Bristol City. And like you say, Steve, it's played over 2 legs with the return fixture next Monday. Over the regular 46-game season, Sheffield United finished 32 points ahead of Bristol City. I mean, it's a huge difference in quality if you look at it going back to when the season started last August. So on that basis, I think Sheffield United's favouritism on the night is justified, even though they're away from home. Plus 135 to win would make sense. And they're really short price favourites to qualify. They're minus 286 to qualify. Bristol City are plus 190. Where I think it gets interesting and more complicated is that the form of both teams really has dipped recently. But if you look back over the last 10 games of the regular season, Bristol City's form is actually a little bit better. They finished the season with 4 wins, 3 draws and 2 defeats. Sheffield United finished the season with 4 wins, 2 draws and 4 defeats. So not a lot in it, but that's a fair chunk of evidence form-wise going into this game. And it would suggest that on the night tonight, it might be a little bit closer than the league table over the 46-game regular season would suggest. So, where does that leave it? I mean, for me, it actually makes it quite difficult to make a call on the money line here. I looked long and hard at this market and also the to qualify market. I think Sheffield United are probably a bit too short in both of those markets because I think that recent form does have some importance here. And then the second thing on the game is that the goal line is obviously really low. The market is expecting low goals, which I quite like, I have to say. You mentioned there over 2.5 goals is plus 160. Under 2.5 goals is minus 210. The goal line's really set at 2 goals, with under goals at minus 110, something like that, which I quite like. Again, if you look at the regular season, 60% of all matches that these two teams have played have gone under 2.5 goals. So I think under 2 goals looks the way to go. That would be my lean. I would go under 2 goals. I think that the fact is the first of 2 legs of a semi-final means it might be slightly cagey, especially because it's a game between 2 teams who probably don't have a lot of confidence right now in their ability, given their form going into it. So I think it's a really fascinating encounter. But as I say, my main takeaway from the research I've done on the game is that you do have this fairly clear clash between the form that the 2 teams have shown over the entire season and what they've shown more recently. They don't really correlate, and it makes it quite difficult, I think, to take a strong view on the outcome.
Yeah, I remember the first leg last season. It was Norwich against Leeds, my own team. Very similar, massive gulf in the class over the season. First leg, the form was a little bit indifferent coming in, and I think it was 0-0. And I think Sheffield United might employ a similar sort of strategy here. Get your draw away from home. I'm pretty sure Sheffield United will win the home leg. Got to be honest with you, James.
Yeah.
And I could see a draw here. You've got that lean of the under, and I do quite like that. I asked someone who I know watches a lot of championship games. The referee here is someone called Oliver Langford. He's a proper championship referee. 270 championship games.
Wow.
That he's officiated. 1 Premier League game. I don't know who that was against or who, but he's obviously this is his level for refereeing. We have players who can play at different levels. He obviously is a championship referee. He has given out 990 yellow cards in his career, 41 red cards. And this is not my words, in the Luton Coventry game recently, he completely lost control of the match. And that doesn't bode well if he's now got a championship playoff semi-final. So I do think for those who can access the cards, over 3.5 cards at minus 150, over 4.5 cards at plus 140 is definitely worth looking at here. I did look back at some of his games that he had officiated with the 2 clubs, especially with Bristol City. There's quite a few red cards involved. I can't say that I can remember this referee off the top of my head myself, but it sounds like if things start to go pear-shaped, and there'll be spice here. There's millions at stake, absolutely millions at stake. Then I think we could see quite a few cards. And if we've got a referee who's going to help along the way, then I would definitely be looking at the cards angle here. And I think I might predict 0-0. Actually, 0-0 in a feisty affair. And that would do me for the game. The goal line, 59% of the money is on Sheffield United, so it's a close one in terms of that. Just before we go, I did mention Norwegian Cup.
Yes.
And here it is now. This is Tromso against KFUM Oslo. This kicks off in 15 minutes' time. I've seen the lineups, and based on the lineups, I think both teams to score yes has got to be a bet here at -117. Main reason is that both teams are starting their second string goalkeeper, which I think is a big factor. You've got to be scoring against backup keepers in this game. I think it could go, this wouldn't surprise me if it ends 1-1 or 2-2. Quite a lot of goals in this NM Cup yesterday. Wouldn't surprise me if it went over 2.5 as well, but I think both teams score yes is worth a look. And for the goal scorers, that Bet Rivers are offering a goal scorer markets here, and you can get on Vegard Erlien for Tromso at +205 to score any time. He's the main penalty taker, and this is a proper shot in the dark. But for KFUM Oslo, there's a player called Theodor Holtvik who is +525 to score any time. My sources tell me that he might be starting up front. I think he's listed. Most see him as a midfielder, but I think he may well be starting up front. So NM Cup, the Norwegian Cup, do get involved there. I think both teams to score is worth a go. What is your best bet of this entire show, James?
My best bet is the Fiorentina Real Betis overs, over 2.5 goals, -120 when I saw it. I think it's -134 now, but I would still take it.
Very good bet. It sounds a good one to me. It's got to be Bodo Glimt draw, no bet for me. Really hoping my Norwegian side can deliver the goods today. But James, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am looking forward to doing both finals with you. I can reveal that it's me and you. We're going to be doing the Wednesdays for the Conference League final and Europa League final. So a lot to look forward to there.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you as ever, Steve. It'll be great to see you again for those finals.
Do check out Betting Weekly Hardball and Betting Weekly Fast Break coming up later today on the channel. And if you are new, do hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. Check out the Premier League show, which should be out now. If it's not, then it'll be out very, very soon. And our Extra Time show on the podcast version today. But thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to James again. Do bet responsibly. And we'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Live.